hopefully at this point you have seen our 4-part series on our 3,000-mile road trip across the country in our Tesla Model 3 with our entire family of 5 and our dog, and seen that since we did in fact survive it, maybe you're feeling a little inspired to take your own road trip, but maybe you just don't know where to begin. So we're going to show you some of the strategies that we use to kind of make the trip a little bit easier on us. And it is important to note that you actually can just hop into your Tesla and it will tell you exactly everywhere to stop, and you don't even have to plan ahead if you don't want to. I'm a little bit crazy and I like to plan everything out in great detail, and not everybody is that way, but especially with kids, we did find it to be helpful.
Let's take a look here at our different planning options. The first one here is available on the Tesla website and also in car. You can go in here and select the type of vehicle you have. In my case, it's the Model 3 long range, so I'll go ahead and select that. And then it's going to go ahead and plan your route based on the available range that the vehicle has to offer. So we can see here on this leg of the trip here that we have from Pigeon Forge to Jacksonville, it's planning 3 stops for a total of 1 hour and 20 minutes of charging. And I think we can do better than that. So it's a total duration of 10 hours, again, 1 hour and 20 minutes of that charging. So let's take a look a little bit further here. There's a number of chargers that are available on this route. And if I look a little bit closer here, I can see it's taking us to this Columbia, South Carolina charger that is only 150 kilowatts. That's the older version of Tesla superchargers. The V3 superchargers can charge up to 250 kilowatts. And another really important fact is you don't share the power with your neighbor. So these 150 kilowatt stalls have A and B charging cables to them. And if there's 2 vehicles plugged into both A and B, they have to split that available 150 kilowatts of energy. Whereas in the 250, each and every stall is a dedicated line, so you don't have to worry about sharing and potentially having even slower charging speeds. So this website, A Better Route Planner, is really good for being able to really fully customize your route and your charging stops that you want to take. So you can see here I planned that same Pigeon Forge to Jacksonville leg of our trip. And you can see it's giving me a number of different options here. But the first notable thing is it's only 36 minutes of charging instead of that 1 hour and 20 minutes. And I actually edited it here a little bit because I chose to add 1 extra stop in Brunswick here, which keeps those last 2 stops actually really quick. But the default route that it had was skipping that stop for a little bit longer charge in Hardyville, and I'll show you how to adjust that here in a second. But by default, it's picking the faster chargers. I can go in there, double check them, make sure that they're ones that I want to pick. There's also a lot of advanced settings that you have here where you can, again, put in the specific trim and model that you have for your vehicle. You can also put in your departure state of charge, which is really helpful based on how you're going to be starting out your day and what your expected state of charge is going to be for your vehicle. You also have the slider here where you can choose to do fewer stops, longer charges, or shorter charges but more stops. All of those are helpful things there. So you can see here it's saving a significant amount of time, 45 minutes on the total trip, practically here, taking it from 10 hours down to 9 hours and 16 minutes. And again, if I took out that stop, again, I added that by just selecting waypoint here, but I can also take that out and then it'll show you the route that it originally planned by default before I added in that Brunswick stop. So here you can see here it just took that 36 to 41 minutes, and it's a little bit longer of a stop. This is the one that it takes by default before I added that in. The other thing that I'd recommend taking a look at is once you figure out which superchargers you'd like to stop at, I would actually recommend going on Google Maps and reading about them. So here's one of the stops here, and again, you can confirm the rate that the charger has to offer. This is the Hardyville one. And then you can see the reviews of people that have stopped there to charge. And it's a nice little way to just take a look at, get a few commentaries. For instance, this person saying that there's, available restrooms that are nice and clean. There's, food there as well. And then you can also search the surrounding area on Google Maps as well to plan if it's going to be a stop where you'd like to grab a bite to eat. You can see what there's available for you. The other thing that I'd like to show is the PlugShare website. This is nice if you need to take a look at alternate options where you might not have as readily access to a supercharger. The one particular portion of our trip that I wanted to make sure I have a backup plan is in Blue Ridge in northern Georgia. There's not a destination charger at our Airbnb cabin that we're staying at, and so I wanted to make sure that I've got alternate options if I find that, just through the driving around that we'll do there, I need more than just the trickle charge I'll get off of the 110 outlet, that I'll have at the cabin. And so there's a couple different options that I was able to see here. There's the Hampton Inn that I may be able to, get some charge at. And then also there's actually an RV park, which is something to always keep in mind because a lot of them will have circuits and Nema sockets that can charge electric vehicles. So this particular one here, it says there's multiple RV spots with the Nema 1450 outlets, and that's great because we can get a nice 32 amp charge off of those 50 amp circuits. Also, same thing as reading on Google, you can go in here, read some of the check-ins that people had, and they can provide a little bit of commentary on how that was stopping there to charge. So I have this as a backup option in case I discover that once we get up in the mountains and we need to get a little bit more of a charge than I'm able to get at our Airbnb. One of the items to take into consideration when planning a road trip is what are your charging needs going to be with the Universal Mobile Connector. Tesla offers a number of different chargers for the Universal Mobile Connector, and these different adapters will allow you to use virtually any outlet that there is available. These two that I'm actually holding here are some of the most common ones, the Nema 1030 and the Nema 1430, which are your standard dryer outlets. This 1030 is the older version in homes before 96, and after 1996 they converted over to the 1430 that has a dedicated ground, and that's why there's 4 prongs versus 3 prongs. The other one that's very common is your standard Nema 1450. This is going to be the one that allows you to charge at the quickest rate. A Model 3 can charge at about 32 miles per hour. And as I mentioned in one of our other videos, at my parents' house, they actually have a Nema 1050, which is the older version of the 1450. Tesla actually doesn't sell that. So if you find yourself needing an adapter that Tesla doesn't have, there are third-party websites that do have those. The thing to take into consideration is some of them are made a little cheaper, and you want to make sure that you have a heavy enough gauge of wiring. You can see in this particular one, it's actually a heavier gauge than even the Tesla connector to ensure that it doesn't overheat during charging. I used this one on several occasions and it worked really well. You can buy these individually or as a complete set, but you don't want to end up in a situation where you get to your destination and find yourself in a location where you don't have the right adapter. That'd be a pretty frustrating experience. Another thing to keep in mind is RV resorts tend to have high amperage and high voltage connections for RVs that you could charge a car in a pinch. And a lot of those are going to commonly use the Nema 1450.
Okay, we're finishing getting packed up for our trip, and I wanted to show you some of the things that we put together. So these are chair backs that are going to go back onto the back of the Model 3 seats. And since there's limited space for things, especially with having a dog in the car, we wanted to have these so that the kids could reach their snacks, and water bottles that we will put in the pouches when they get in the car on the first day. So we have the sanitizer wipes and different little snack packs for the kids. There's places for their tablets, and that way it's all right where they can reach it when they're in the car, and everybody's not whining and yelling for mommy or daddy to get them all of their things. And I made them these folders. Each girl has one. We did the mountain pages because they're going to the mountains on this trip. And then they have word searches and puzzles and things that they can do. And also I printed them pages for each state that we're going to so they can color the different pages. And then different activities for the places that we're going to stop at. And then in the back, I printed them out, these pages that I found. You might want to take a picture if you can. I found on this blog a lady that had this road trip pack, and I printed it out, and then if you put it inside a sheet protector, they can use dry erase markers and reuse them. And it has different things for them to spot and look for, and car bingo that they can play, and they can do it more than once so that, you know, they can just erase with their dry erase marker. Scavenger hunts, and then they can look for the license plates from each state. The little sticker by numbers. Figured that would keep them busy for a little while, where they had to sticker in the pages to make the pictures. So if you can get any kind of things like this and then just give it to them like it's brand new, especially each day of the trip, they have something new to play with, it'll keep them busy. And then, so that they can do all of their coloring in the car, we got these little, it's from Alex brand, and they are little lap desks. And they're nice because the girls can carry them by the handle, and they snap together, but they can also unsnap the board so that they can sit with them. And inside the pouches, they have crayons. And then I like to use the twisty crayons because they don't break and they like never run out. They can keep using them for a long time. So we stuck those inside their pouches, and then they can stick their books and coloring books and sticker books on the front and work on them. There's a few items worth mentioning that we purchased for the girls just to make the car ride go a little bit more smoothly. One of them is this Where's Waldo travel edition. It has all 7 books in it, and it's a smaller paperback version of Waldo instead of the big hardcover books. So it traveled really well and had a lot of content in there to keep them busy. We also had these LED boards that we got off of Amazon for about $15, and they're reusable. They can doodle and draw on them, and then they just push the button at the bottom and it erases it, which is convenient because then they don't have to have paper and crayons or not making a mess. They can just reuse it over and over, which is great when you're stuck in the car. Finally, we had to pack for our dog. I found this water bottle on Amazon. It was less than $20, and it was very useful because you could dispense water for her as needed and otherwise lock it so it doesn't spill. And they can eat and drink out of the little pink part. And there was a food compartment that I will say is only useful if you have a small dog because it's not very big. And otherwise, you could get collapsible water bowls and food bowls like we did here. We used these in the cabin so she would have a real bowl to eat out of when we were not on the road.